A little different interview I have. Usually I stay with bodybuilding, powerlifting, arm wrestling. I just got done interviewing Travis Orndorff, who is Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful's son. Do you remember him from wrestling?
Say it, who?
It was Mr. Wonderful. Remember
Oh, yeah,
Paul
oh yeah,
Orndorff?
yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah.
interviewed his son. But now today we got comedian great Bob Nelson.
Well, if you wanna interview a boxer for a second, we can
Oh
do
yeah,
that.
yeah we'll get
Jiffy
to that.
Jiffy Jeff just gave me his shirt.
Oh yeah, that's right. We'll get to Jiffy Jeff. We'll get to Jiffy Jeff. So probably people my age remember you the most. Generation X. That was the HBO when you plop down in front of the TV. You turn that fucking knob on top of the TV, and then you had the Rodney Dangerfield special that you weren't supposed to be watching. But
Yeah, right.
you weren't supposed to be watching because your mom didn't want you to, but you fucking watched it anyway, right? And after that, you kind of exploded in the 1980s.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I was very lucky. I was in the right place at the right time.
Now, now you grew up on Long Island, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did.
How long did you do stand up before you got that special on Dangerfield?
Okay, let's see. The Dangerfield special was 85, so I started in 78.
So relatively
8 years, 7, 8 years.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Pretty quick.
So pretty quick. I mean, you put some time into it. And then, not to take anything away from your success, the 80s, for some reason, I don't know why, was this bubble of comedians. It was like this tremendous boom of comedians. And most of them sucked, really. I mean, really, most of them are fucking terrible.
Yeah, it was cable TV that did that.
Okay.
Evening at the Improv. There were more comedy clubs than there were comics.
Yeah.
So it was like anybody could do it. Anybody could do comedy back then. Plus the audience was brand new and they were ready.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it wasn't the comedy of the 90s where it was the 90s, everything started getting very edgy and very, off color and really edgy, which I enjoyed. But the comedy of the 80s was more, with the exception of guys like Dice, right?
Yeah.
Was more, your type of humor, which was funny, but simple and kind of like silly, if you will, but it worked.
Yeah, it was a little bit more humble. I mean, the comics were a little bit more humble, a little bit more had humility and weren't afraid to laugh themselves. And as time went on, it became alternative comedy. I mean, I've seen comics, I won't name them, but you would go to a comedy club and they would have a little stool next to them with paper, and they'll say, "What about this topic?" And they would just throw it out there, and it wasn't an act. Back in the 80s, you had a routine, you had an act, you had a character. I mean, you think about all the characters there were back in the 80s, from Rodney Dangerfield, Paula Poundstone, Kevin Meaney, John Panette, Emo Phillips. I could go on and on. Yeah, and it was like everybody had their own persona, their own act. It was really original stuff back then.
Yeah.
Now it just seems to be, to me, I mean, I watch comics today, and it just pretty much is that Saturday Night Live. Let's rip this guy. Kind of like the roast thing. That's really popular now, roasting people and the battles and.
Yeah, well, it's kind of died down in the last couple of years with the political correctness. It seems like a lot of people are going more after, I think they call it clapter, not laughter. But they get on stage and they say something politically correct, and the audience just,
Really?
Yeah. You're like, women are beautiful, and everybody's, okay, that's great. Yeah, but anyway, we'll get to that.
So men are women. Women are men.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Right. Exactly.
My brother had a baby. No, he had the baby.
Yeah. Exactly. So we'll get to that. But your kind of humor, you had different characters.
Yeah.
And you had, from what I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, you had 3 really, really standout characters. You had Jiffy Jeff.
Yeah.
You had Epi Epperman.
Yeah.
And then you had, I don't know what you want to call the football routine.
Oh yeah, Tyrone Tylenol Jackson,
Oh.
number 72.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
right.
me, number 72.
Yeah, that's right. Now, how did you come up with these characters?
Each one was different. Epi Epperman is a takeoff of a guy I met. It's actually a combination of two people. I was in a snowstorm in the show was snowed out, and we're all sitting at the bar. I think it was Columbus, Ohio, and there was like 15 something inches of snow, and this guy comes bursting into the bar, and his glasses are all askew. He had the Epi Epperman glasses on.
Yeah,
they were all askew. He's going, hey, it's snowing really bad out there. I just pulled my tow truck up, and if everybody needs a jump, I can't tow you because I'm stuck too. I'm stuck as well. Yeah. But what I can do is I could give you a jump if you need a jump because I have really long jumper cables.
I remember watching Epi Epperman, and I think my favorite Epi Epperman one was the baseball routine.
Oh, the baseball routine.
That I remember being a kid, and still to this day. And I remember I put it on, and I dragged my wife over. I'm like, you got to watch this. And I was rolling, and my wife was looking at me like I'm an idiot, right?
Yeah,
and she's like,
kind of a strange routine.
Yeah, she's like, she doesn't have the same sense of humor I do. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
She's probably saying, "What's wrong with that guy, and why are you laughing at him?"
That's pretty much what. Yeah, her eyes said that. You know, my wife wears glasses that come down to her nose, and she looks at me and goes, well, "This is not funny." And I'm like, "I'm fucking crying." Yeah, right. But
back in the '80s and the early '90s, I used to do a show called The Doors, which eventually became my HBO special, Nelson Schmelson. And where Epi, that's where Epi was kind of born. I mean, I used to do them outside of the Doors, but then I started doing them with the Doors, and that baseball routine was pretty much off the cuff when I did it on Rosie's show. It was I was just kind of riffing. Yeah, I had what I would do is I did a lot of improv in my, because I had like every Sunday night show at the East Side Comedy Club on Long Island and Rascals in Ocean Township. And I just remember going up on stage and doing it. And Rosie asked me to do it on her show. And it wasn't even flushed out yet. So the original one that you saw is much shorter than the one that I started doing afterwards. And I haven't done it in so long, but it was such a fun piece to do, because it was, it's a freight train of free thought. Right. A runaway train of thought.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
off track.
Truly funny. Now, so then you had Jiffy Jeff.
Oh, Jiffy Jeff. Yeah.
Right.
We do Jiffy Jeff. I stick a piece of paper in my nose now to make it look like it's broken.
Oh.
All right. There you go. Hey, John, how's it going?
Yeah.
It's good to be here on the party cast with you. And ask me any question about boxing. I'm sure to help you out, because I had alto training. And in boxing, you need alto training. If you don't have alto. Oh, a lot. Sorry, the letters can all jump within my head occasionally. And that's me, Jiffy Jeff.
You need a good in boxing. You need a good. In boxing, you need a good nickname, right?
You need a good nickname. You need a good nickname. Boom Boom Mancini. Remember him? They call him Boom Boom Mancini because Henry Mancini was already taken. That's a joke for the older people. No, they call him Boom Boom Mancini because that's what it sounds like when he hits you. Sounds just like that. Boom, boom, Mancini. One of my favorite boxers, Iron Mike Tyson. They call him Iron Mike Tyson. I don't know, because did you ever see him with a pair of slacks that was not have a really good crease in it?
Yeah, that's right.
That's why they called him Iron Mike Tyson. Other people thought it's because he had a tough chin, but that was true too.
But Marvelous Marvin Hagler had a great nickname.
Marvelous Marvin Hagler. They call him Marvelous Marvin Hagler because he looks good. Gotta go way back for that joke to make sense.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Yeah.
So now, I think the most famous routine that you had, right?
Hold on, let me leave.
Okay.
Okay. I can't. I'll talk to you later.
Oh, okay. It's like personalities. You got to give one the light, and then
Yeah. Oh, that got me. I'm so tired.
So
I'm
now
tired already.
Yeah, I hear you, man. And then obviously the football routine, which was probably the most famous routine. Yeah. Now, do you still do all the same characters and whatnot?
I
When you
have
go out
to.
there? Yeah.
I have to. If I don't do it, they get very upset.
Mhm.
You know, even if it's politically incorrect, which most of my stuff is,
Yeah.
because I do characters and
By
I do
today's standards, yes.
yeah, yeah, by today's standards, which I don't go by because I'm not from today.
Yeah.
I'm from yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, I was born in the last century, so I go by those rules.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
And yeah, I mean, they still want me to do the football. They still want me to do Jiffy Jeff, you know, or Epi Epperman,
Yeah.
Ping Ye, my Chinese character.
Oh, I never knew. I never heard of Ping Ye.
Oh yeah, I don't have them with me, but
Oh,
you know,
right.
it's funny because I have these Chinese glasses. I have glasses just like this, and I put, you know, remember those Chinese glasses that they used to sell?
I actually, I'll send you the picture. But every year, me and my wife have a Halloween party, and 2 years ago, yeah, something like that. I was, or 3 years ago, I was the Korean DVD guy that sells DVDs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and what to tell you what I had to go through to find those frigging glasses because they don't sell them anymore. I guess probably for political correctness. But I had a bid on them on eBay, and I had to spend $10 on these stupid pair of glasses, and I finally got them. But
yeah, hey, you want to know something funny about that? When I would get cornered with, I had a show in Pigeon Forge, and a lot of Asian people would come down and watch the show, and I would still do, because I did my door show like the Nelson Schmelzer routine, and one of the neighbors is the Chinese guy Ping Ye, and I would come out with the glass. Hey, get off my lawn, you know, get out of here, the whole thing, and I had the glasses on. And the Asian people come on after the show, and they would come on stage and they want to take a picture of me. I go, oh, that's great. And I go, no, put on the glasses.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So I put on the glasses. And sometimes I'll get these political correct people saying, you know, you shouldn't do that. That's politically, mostly a white guy, you know, or a white woman, you know.
A liberal, radical.
Meanwhile,
it doesn't bother.
Yeah. So I have the original package of one, and I take the package out and I say to them, I say, look at where is this made? It says right there, made in China.
Yeah.
The Chinese made these things and they sent them to us and they sold them to us. So therefore, I have a license to do it. They gave me permission. I paid to do this. I mean, what do they think we're doing with them?
Right.
It's amazing.
Now, do you ever come across very young audience and then you do your old routine and then all of a sudden it's like kind of brand new again?
Oh yeah. I get a lot of, you know what I get? I get a lot of people who come to my show who were from the 80s and the 90s, you know, the baby boomers and after, and they bring their kids, and I get all these kids coming, and they're just blown away by what I'm doing because it's so different. I mean, when I grew up watching some of the greatest comics that ever lived, you know, Jonathan Winters, Jerry Lewis. I mean, all the physical guys, Danny Kaye, you know, Red Skelton was a big influence on me. He did a lot of characters. And the thing about Red Skelton was he did original characters, you know, so my characters were original characters as opposed to someone who does mimicry, who does, you know, they'll do an impression of someone, you know, they'll do an impression of someone who already exists. I created these people. And it was just the same way Red Skelton did. You know, he had Freddie the Freeloader and Clem Diddlehopper, and I was totally influenced by those guys.
And if you go back, they're still very funny. If you go back and see those clips are still very funny. You know, you go back and watch Foster Brooks was one of you know, one of my oldest brother's favorites. You know, my oldest brother's 14. Yeah, you go back and they're still funny. You go back to the Carol Burnett show, it's still hilarious. You go back to Lucille Ball. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, funny's funny, you know, whether it's edgy, whether it's politically incorrect or not. If it makes you laugh, it makes you laugh. That's really it.
You have to be able to laugh at yourself. And a lot of people, they don't want to be dismissed. I did a show once. I used to do a routine. I used to do a bit where I play with balloons a lot in my act. And I do the football thing. Those are balloons. And sorry, did I make a noise?
Sorry.
So I used to have this balloon, and what I would do is I forget what the thing was, and it would pop, and I go, oh my goodness, I popped a balloon and it hurt my hearing really bad. So I was actually doing a deaf person, and I did that at a college once, and some students came up to me and says, I can't believe you did that. That was like totally inappropriate. You made fun of a deaf person. Now, unbeknownst to me, there was a deaf congregation in the show, sitting in the front row. because and the reason why I was even playing with they had one of the sign interpreters, and I thought maybe there was a smattering of deaf people in the audience, but there was a whole like 2 rows of students who were deaf. It was like,
Right.
and after the show, this young kid comes up to me and starts berating me about making fun of deaf people, and the deaf guy made them turn around and said, "Turn around, I want to read your lips. I want to hear what you're saying to him, because it's about us, isn't it? You think that we don't think it's funny? Who are you to judge us? You don't even talk to us. You don't even pay attention to us. You don't even acknowledge us on campus. You think we're special." And he was like,
"That's fantastic. Good,
yeah.
good."
We thought it was funny. We laughed
because we'll get to it. It's ruining comedy. It really is. But we'll basically get to it. But so the early 80s come, you blow up. You're in a few movies. You're in Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
You're in when I say the 80s, I still consider the early 90s the 80s. Technically, it still is. Yeah. If the girl still had big hair and a lot of makeup, it's still the 80s. Right. So and then you were in a movie with John Turturro, which I remember as a kid. Brain Donors, is that it?
Yes.
Right. That was really funny. And then the 90s come along, and the mid 90s start coming along, and comedy starts changing a bit. You have Def Comedy Jam, and you have a lot of more politically incorrect. There's a new usher of generation. You have the Bill Burrs, the Louis C.K.'s, the Jim Nortons. They're very politically incorrect. They're very edgy. They're very over the top. They're very, there was another guy that was really, really off, and I can never remember his name. I can't remember his name, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Like it was, and then you kind of like, you stayed relevant, but it was more of like in the comedy club scene, if you will.
Yeah.
Were there any? Did you have any like animosity toward like these guys now that were doing this crude, crazy comedy, and they were just blowing up, just unbelievably just blowing up?
No animosity at all. It's a whole totally different thing than what I do.
Yeah.
I would cringe. I would cringe if I'm sitting near my wife, or if they said something to someone which I thought was, they crossed the line there,
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that was part of their act.
Right.
And that wasn't my thing. So when I first started, the fact that I used props, or when I had the football helmet and I had the balloons on my shoulder, Jerry Seinfeld and Paul Reiser and Bill Maher and Larry Miller, they told me I shouldn't be using props. I shouldn't be doing that, because he said, you're funny on your own. Use your wit. Why are you,
I'm a different type
making a fool of yourself? And one night they came up on stage while I was at my own club, Long Island. I had all my stuff on the walls, and they came up, grabbed my suitcase, took my stuff off my stuff off the wall, and they walked off. But I kept doing my act. I did the football thing without the helmet, without the stuff. And I got off stage. I said, apparently they're not props, they're visual aids.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really need them.
Let
me just tell you one real quick story.
Go ahead.
I never felt like, because you say animosity, I never felt comfortable with my peers, my colleagues at that time, because I was so different. I felt comfortable with like Emo Phillips or Kevin Meaney or those guys, because they got me and I got them.
Right. It was
when I was on stage and they did that to me. I actually, when I met Red Skelton, I said to him, Red, I just don't feel comfortable today with my friends around. I said, I don't feel like they respect me. And Red looks at me and goes, well, I'll tell you why, Bob, because you're not a comedian. I said, I'm not. And he goes, no, you're not a comedian. You're a clown just like me. And you don't belong to a circus. And what you're doing is you're borrowing your stage for the time that you do your stuff. And that set me free. It set me free. I was like, there's the host of comedians on the stage tonight and a clown. Or
that's a very good point. That's a really. Now, let me just
set me free.
Let me just quickly give you my opinion. Those 4 comics that ridiculed you, what'd you say? Seinfeld, Maher.
Yeah.
Who are the other guys?
Larry Miller
and
Paul Reiser.
Okay.
They didn't really ridicule me. They would just, I guess so. But,
breaking your ball, right? Exactly. Those 4 guys, as far as I'm concerned, were not funny stand-up comedians at all. As far as I'm concerned, Seinfeld was funnier in his show. Yeah. And he wasn't even that. It was the crowd around him and Larry David that made it funny. Paul Reiser kind of sucked as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he really did. I mean,
Nice guy.
I'm
I
sure
thought
he's
he was funny.
I'm sure he's a great guy, but
Yeah, he made me laugh.
and Bill Maher really got famous from his politically incorrect, and now
Yeah.
the show on HBO, which I admire him for that. His
Yeah.
his political standings, I admire him from that. But I never watched any of his stand up and was like, that's funny. Now, there was some funny comics during your generation that I thought were hilarious, and one of them actually just passed. The amazing Jonathan.
Yeah. Oh, Jonathan. Yeah.
Yeah,
He just died. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
just
horrible.
recently died. And I remember.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I remember one of the funniest things he did was like he had a girl on stage that was blind. She blindfolded, and he had to guess what was in his hand. Do you remember that? And then she wouldn't get it, and then he would just belt her across the face with it. Bow, and then she would guess it. And he was like, "Oh yeah, you got it." Yeah. I mean, that to me, that was But
yeah, he was unique. He was unique. He really brought something to magic. He really did.
Now,
making mistakes all the time is funny.
So now you're in this world of this political correctness, and the thing is, you were never really offensive comedian,
right?
You made pretty much everybody laugh, all walks of life laugh.
I tried to. That's what a clown does. You try to make everybody in the room laugh. Red Skelton told me you want to make grandma from the grandchildren to grandma and everybody else in between. Right. That's what you want to make laugh.
Yeah. And I agree. That's a mark of a great comedian as far as I'm concerned, But now all of a sudden in the last few years, you have like scrutiny under this political correctness, SJWs, this far left. How bad has it gotten for you?
Well, for me, not bad at all, because I have my own audience. I have my own fans. It's a fan base, so they come and watch me and see me. I don't really go to the comedy clubs or the open mics much. And also because the last year and a half, when it really got bad, before COVID, I developed cancer. So I've been fighting cancer since then.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm okay now. I mean, I'm praying I'm okay now. I'm just getting over it all.
And what kind of cancer was it, if you don't mind?
It was colon and rectal cancer. So they had to go in there. It was stage 3. It was pretty messed up. Lymph nodes, the whole thing. It went through the wall. So they had to cut out the whole bottom of me. And so now my body's all put back together finally after a year and a half. And now I just have to learn how to hold it. Hold it and know what's happening. I don't know if I'm going or if I'm passing gas. I'm laying in bed. I'm like, what is it? What is it? What is it? What is it?
Well, that's a new comedy routine for you. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'll probably have new stuff coming out about that.
Are you touring again or not yet?
Not yet. I can't even. Yeah, I'm too. I can't sit for long. An accident may happen at any moment.
Right now. Holy shit. Now, how do you bring in revenue if you can't tour?
I have the greatest fans in the world. My wife at the assistant at the everybody telling me I should do a GoFundMe because we didn't really have insurance. We were right where you don't make enough money to have insurance, and so we were right in that middle area where it was really expensive. Mm-hmm. And we started GoFundMe, and people have helped me through this last year. And I'll tell you what, I would not be here if it wasn't for my fans. I actually this is a condo now. We lost everything,
Well,
so
what you need to do is you need to email me the link, and then I will put it in the description in the YouTube channel. And you could tell people who are listening to the podcast what the GoFundMe is right now, if you'd like.
Yeah. Or you could just go to bobnelson.com. I think there's a link on there.
Okay.
I'm probably going to, hopefully within the next month or two, I'll be able to get back on the road and close it down. But right now, it's such a blessing. I just can't believe, how people have poured and encouraged me. As a matter of fact, you're talking about the brain donors with Pat Proft. Mm-hmm. The other day I was sitting here thinking, man, I can't work. This is horrible. And my wife's got 3 jobs. And I start to think, I don't think anything's funny because everything is so hard right now. So it's like, just to go to the bathroom, I'm sitting there for hours and nothing's happening. And I think I have to go, it's that kind of thing. So once my body makes it. I'm thinking, I don't know if I could ever be funny again. And I got an email the other day from Pat Proft saying, "You're one funny MF," you know? And so there, and I don't think he knows I have cancer, but it was like right at the perfect timing to remember. And I started looking at the video. He put a YouTube video on there, which was talking about my character I did in the movie. And I was like, oh my goodness, that is funny stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't write it, but
I mean, listen, I reached out to you for an interview because as a kid, you were one of my favorites. And I remember watching the football routine and going out. I grew up in Brooklyn, right? I live in Jersey now, but I grew up in Brooklyn. And I remember getting 2 balloons and blowing them up and doing my routine, the same routine for my friends on the block, right? Yeah. And my favorite part of the routine was when you push the balloons down and they look like, you're like, oh, this is my grandmother now because it looked like her tits. Yeah. And I mean, you were one of my absolute favorites, Epi Epperman. And like I still to this day, I still look it up on YouTube and Jiffy Jeff and so on and so forth. And it's I don't think comics icons, celebrities, so on and so forth. I don't think they realize the impact that they make on you. Like a lot
of us don't.
I mean, you were part of my childhood, and that Rodney Dangerfield special was part of my childhood. I remember watching Andrew Dice Clay and watching you, Roseanne Barr, Sam Kinison. That was truly part of my childhood. And like before you, I interviewed. Like I said, I interviewed Travis Orndorff, Paul Orndorff's son, and I remember Saturday mornings put on wrestling and seeing his father wrestle, and I wanted to be like him and look like him. And it's guys like you inspire people like me to do things like this. Just this alone, just how long it took me to do it when I was just like my wife was like, just do it. It was the COVID, everything was locked down and it was like perfect timing. It's just like, just do it, buy the equipment and do it. We're not, and it's slowly but surely taken off because I don't have a big name, because when you don't have a name, it takes time. You kind of like the grind. But people like that, people like yourself are the ones that inspire people like me, maybe not even to be a comic, but to do something that they never thought they would, or they always imagined that they wanted to, and they go, screw it, let's give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen? But it is not surprising to me that you have a fanfare and you have a ton of fans loving you. It's not surprising to me at all, because your comedy wasn't mean or it was lighthearted. It was silly. It was funny, and everybody loved it. It wasn't like you didn't go up there and just piss anyone off just for the sake of it. Right. There are comics like that are funny.
Yeah.
But you weren't, that wasn't you.
When you're like me, you're more of a clown, you're more of a family friendly kind of a comedian. And, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with being the George Carlin, who had it, he had an incredible place in history.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even if you go back to Lenny Bruce, I mean, these guys, but for me, when I met Red Skelton and I met Dom DeLuise and I met Tommy Smothers, these guys just, blew me away. Mm-hmm. So to meet them and to be encouraged by them, as a matter of fact, I got a good friend of mine, Rob Chaffee, who's, he's a comic on Long Island, and he's been around a while. He's very funny. I have him open for me a lot. He started helping other comics by having it's called jokezoom.com. And basically what it is he has writing sessions with comics and people who want to be comedians from all over the world. And they basically and it's all free. They write comedy together and they get inspired. And he's starting to do classes, and he's trying to get me to give back and do like a character class. So I'm thinking about doing that too.
Absolutely.
And it's called what's it called? It's called comedy. I have a thing called chemo brain. It's true. I went through the chemotherapy and the radiation, and the chemo causes you to get real foggy.
Really? Oh man,
I
that
got Comedy Trade
sucks.
School. It's called
Trade School. Okay.
comedytradeschool.com. And if you want to become a comic, or you want to, test the waters, dip your little toe in the waters of comedy, it's a good place to start. It's pretty comprehensive for someone right here on Long Island, and just doing it on his own. So I'm probably going to get involved and teach kids to do more act out, like, Sebastian Maniscalco, and to do characters and,
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to do that.
Now, you told me who inspired you.
Yeah.
What comics coming up through your generation, if you will, did you think did not get enough clout, that were very fun, and you were like, this guy is just not getting enough recognition?
Yeah. Kevin Meaney. I mean, he did well. He didn't, I thought he should have hit huge, but the problem is, guys that I really like, there's a guy called Willie Sacco, who's out of his mind.
Mm-hmm.
And he never really took off. And I don't know what it is about it, but there's a lot of guys that, I can't think of any off the bat because the guys that I know are doing well.
Yeah.
But I'm getting like a brain fart right now.
Yeah.
But there was somebody, Dave Hawthorne. I used to do comedy with a guy named Dave Hawthorne, and we used improvisation. He started with Billy Crystal. He was in Billy Crystal's comedy team.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, he never hit. And I felt that he should have hit big because the guy was just so funny, off the cuff, hysterical.
There was so many comics in the 80s, and a lot of them, a lot of them blew up and got sitcoms and so on and so forth. And I'm telling you, man, a lot of them really weren't that funny.
Yeah.
And then once the 90s came around and that bubble broke, then you really saw like who stayed and shined and who didn't,
Yeah.
I mean, Seinfeld had gotten his show, and Bill Maher had gotten his show, and they found their niche and so on and so forth. But there were a lot of comics who kind of, fell off, and it's kind of like, it was kind of like the, the stock market boom of the late 90s, 2000s, only for comics. And which just got so huge where everybody, what about today? What comics today do you go and you go, that guy's good?
I like guys like Dennis Regan, his brother, Dennis Regan, and see, not
his brother was the other Regan,
Brian Regan.
Brian Regan. See, I didn't even know Brian Regan had a brother. Brian Regan was more like your generation.
Yeah, Dennis Regan's very funny. I can't think of any right now, but because I can't. When you throw a question at me where I got to think.
Oh, okay.
I can't do it.
Sorry, man. I apologize.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's not your fault.
But you answered the question. Dennis Regan.
I know it's going to. And Brian Regan, and there's a lot of young comics that people who on Long Island that I really dig and stuff. George Gallo. Okay. I don't know if you know George Gallo.
No,
he should have. He was one of the guys from the 80s and 90s who should have went huge because he was just so funny, But but I hate this. I just get, if I get a question, there's sometimes when I have to use a word and I can't think of what the word is. And I keep asking my wife that, that it's like that happens to everybody.
Want to call into the room and have her do the interview?
Yeah. When you, everybody has that happen to them where you can't think of a certain word, but when you have chemo brain, it's like times 10 or 20 where you start to talk and then you start to panic. I mean, I was sitting with my oncologist and he's asking me who my doctors are, and I was just with him, and I can't remember who's your gastro doctor, gastroenterologist. I'm like, I was just there, and I can't think of his name. It's like really frightening.
I'm sorry. Are you done with chemo now? Is it over?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Thank God.
I did the chemo before the operations because the tumor was huge.
Oh, okay.
So they had to shrink it. They couldn't go in there.
And are you cancer free as of now?
I'm everything's all in remission. There's no cancer at this moment.
Glad to hear it.
They cut out a big chunk on my butt.
God. Well, glad to hear it, man.
Yeah.
Good to hear you're doing a lot better, man. That is no joke, especially stage 3. I'm glad you beat it, man.
Yeah. It's crazy. It didn't get into my blood or my lungs or anything like that. So
oh, that's good. That's good. All right, good. Now, when the change happened from the 80s into the 90s and things got a little bit more crude and edgy and you kind of would say things that you wouldn't normally say, comics would normally enter a realm that they would normally. Did anybody try to force you to change your style and say, hey, listen, that's not working anymore, you need to do something different?
Yeah, I get that a lot. When I do when I did the HBO specials, I don't own it, so a lot of people post it,
Okay.
and they get monetized to but it's Rodney's show, so I can't. I mean, I could do it again, but what I do is I cleaned up ever since I met Red Skelton, I really cleaned up my act. So when I do those routines, they're clean. So I get people saying, why did you take the curse words out? And I go, do you really need them?
Yeah, right.
I mean, I want to be able to perform for people and not offend. I mean, you got plenty of people out there who you can go and see and hear that stuff, but it's not my cup of tea.
Very good point. Very good point. Like,
yeah, and I know there's a lot of people out there. It's not their cup of tea. I mean, maybe that audience is dwindling and people are becoming more and more anesthetized.
I don't know, it's all right.
I don't know what the word is, but they just seem to be able to handle that, the cursing and the stuff where you're talking about bodily functions and sex and stuff like that. Right. It's just second nature. It's not a big deal.
Well, it seems to be like Dice too. Dice, even though Dice was filthy.
Yeah.
He was filthy, but again, in the 90s, you had a whole new generation of comics that weren't necessarily filthy, but that they were able to kind of truth tell, but make it funny at the same time, like a Patrice O'Neill or a Bill Burr or a Louis C.K. or a Jim Norton. Jim Norton does this bit about how when he was a kid growing up, him and his other kid used to touch each other because it felt good. And he makes they actually named this special out of it called It's Raining or something like that. I forgot the name of it. That's what they would call it. They would call it, oh, it's raining, and then they would jump under the stoop and then like touch each other. And he does this whole insane hysterical comedy act, but it was the truth. But he's able to kind of make it funny.
Yeah, it's like people can relate. It's sad that people can relate to that and laugh about or think that I just really, the thing about Dice though is Dice was a character. He was doing a character, so he was able to get away with stuff. It's like he's really not like that.
Yeah,
but a guy like Jim Norton,
that's him.
Is this true?
Is this
true what he's saying? You never know.
Yeah, because
I'll probably tell you it is.
Yeah. I think guys that like a Bill Burr or Jim Norton or a Patrice or a Louis C.K., I think that's who they actually are. And they just make fun of it, and they just dig deep down into themselves and just pull it out. But
they take their horrible truth and make it funny.
Make it funny. And oddly enough, people could relate to it. That type of style is obviously dying down now. But things being very politically correct, you've seen what happened with Dave Chappelle and Louis C.K. and so on and so forth. But apparently Netflix doesn't give a shit because it just gave Dave Chappelle another 4 stand-up special deal, making insane amount of money. So
Dave Chappelle, I don't see what he's doing that's so bad. He's basically, everybody says, what is your truth? That's his truth.
That's it.
That's, he's telling you how he sees it and people are relating to it. Mm-hmm. And not everybody's the same person. When people ask me about like God, I tell them, well, you know what, there were 12 apostles. There wasn't just one. Mm-hmm. There wasn't one guy you need to be like John, James, and Peter, and they were all different from the other. Mm-hmm. And God treated them all differently, and that's how audiences are. And people should recognize that it may not be for you. Not everybody drinks Earl Grey tea. Some people like Chinese tea.
If you don't like it, don't drink it.
Yeah. Why do you have to say Earl Grey tea is the worst tea?
Yeah. Or go as far as try to cancel them, try to get them fired, or lose their livelihood. I think the guy who did Hustler magazine Larry Flint was, I think he said it the best when he was on Stand. And he said, look, if you don't like Hustler magazine, don't read it.
Right.
And it's the same thing. You don't like Dave Chappelle, don't watch it. Watch somebody that's more your speed. You don't have to just change the channel.
Yeah, you don't have to go after his fans and tell his fans there's something wrong with them.
Absolutely.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So if you've seen, and there's a reason why I'm getting into this, is a reason why I'm getting to this. So if you've seen what's happening, is the younger comics are a lot more sensitive to these issues. They don't do these off-color issues, or they stay away from these like edgy issues, like the trans women, trans men kind of thing, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, do you think that there could be a huge boom for you because your comedy is so revered as family-friendly comedy once you get back on the road?
Yeah, I think that hopefully it could. I mean, that would be great. I think that it probably is already coming back. But like I said, I haven't been out there for over almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
But and a lot has happened during the COVID and with the whole cancel culture thing.
Right.
But I think that there's plenty of room for that. The thing is, though, how far is this cancel culture going to go? I mean, if you do something that, like I was just talking about God a minute ago, people might say, what are you talking about God? That's totally inappropriate, or if you're talking about, family, father and mother, why are you saying father and mother? It's not just a father and mother.
That's
now.
right.
There's just 37 genders. So why are you just, so who knows where it's going to go? I think it's kind of built. It's like a house of cards. I mean, a lot of bad stuff is happening, like with the transgender athletes crossing over into women's sports. I mean, that to me is an atrocity because, they're going in the swimming team. And I think the guy just blew away every record from like the 1940s till now.
I don't understand.
And it's just insane. It's insane because he's still, he's still got the male muscles.
I actually have, from this podcast, I actually made a friend who's a trans woman, and I don't agree with her lifestyle, but I don't really, she came on and we did an interview. She's been on several times. I don't agree with her lifestyle. I don't agree with her. She's a professional arm wrestler, and she's won a world title as a woman, even though she was a man. Now, I don't agree with that. Of course not. I don't agree with that. I think it's wrong. But if she wants to come on and I want to interview her and it's a good interview, go right ahead.
I have to check that out. Did you ask her if she thinks she has an advantage?
Yes. Yeah. I'll send it.
What did she say? Okay. Send it to me.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it because she's been on like 3 different times. But yeah, we
what did she say though? What did she just?
She basically told me that she can't just arm wrestle for any sanctioned arm wrestling federation. Some of them will allow her, some of them won't. And the ones that will allow her, she has to bring paperwork showing that her testosterone is as low as a woman. And that also she has, all the girls that she would be arm wrestling have to agree that it's okay.
Okay.
So it's almost like how can you argue against that? She's not forcing herself or protesting. And she says the people that don't want me to arm wrestle for them, I just don't. Yeah. I just go with the ones that do. But she still gets a lot of shit for it. But
was she an arm wrestler before she?
Yeah,
she was. I'm interviewing you now.
No, yeah, she was an arm wrestler before. She was a men's amateur, and then she became a woman, and she is a world champ woman now, professional world champ woman. Yeah. So yeah, there is obviously an advantage, and the fact that it's acceptable just blows me away because just flip it around. If you take a woman and she becomes a man and she enters a man's sport, she's nowhere near those men. Right. Yeah, so yeah. If you trans men cannot go into, the javelin throw and break records, it doesn't work that way. It only works the other way. Right. It only works when the man becomes a trans woman and destroys everybody's world record. So it's obviously, they obviously have an advantage. It's just,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. It's unfortunate. But getting back to comedy, yes, I think it is the perfect time for your type of comedy to reemerge. And I think it's the perfect time for you to get back on the road because of your health and because of the timing. I think it's
Yeah.
absolutely but you're right. It's a slippery slope. How far is it going to go? Somebody, and I think Netflix and Spotify basically were the first ones to actually stand up and say, no, tough shit. We're not getting rid of Dave Chappelle, and we're not getting rid of Joe Rogan. They make too much money.
Yeah.
They have too much of a big stage, and you could scream and holler all you want. But the people that are like middle of the road celebrities, they get canned immediately. There was a comic that was trying to sign with Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live. This was a couple of years back. And he had his own podcast, just like I do. And he was a struggling comic, and he was ready to go on Saturday Night Live. And somebody found a podcast episode where he was doing jokes about the Chinese. And that's it. And then what's his name never signed him after they dropped him immediately on Saturday Night Live. He wasn't even part of Saturday Night Live yet. He was ready to come on. And that was
I think I remember that.
Yeah, so it's guys like that really that are going to have the problem, and that's why a lot of these comics today are like they're treading lightly. They don't.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but
yeah. Well, it's too late for me because I already stepped in it.
Yeah.
When with my characters.
Yeah. Right.
But like I said, I still have an audience. So.
Yeah. You definitely still have an audience, and I think you're going to grow your audience even greater once you get back out on the road, because I think the family friendly and people that know that you're family friendly, I think you'll be able to really get back on your feet immediately. That's just my personal opinion, because no matter what, you're funny, and those characters are timeless, and they're always funny.
They exist apart from me, which is an amazing thing to me, because I think in my head sometimes I think as them.
Oh God. Now, did you ever develop a character that you liked but never took off, and then you just dumped it?
Yeah, I had this character. I had a character as it was a German scientist. It just was sort of like what's his name? The show of shows, Sid Caesar. It was like a German Sid Caesar-ish kind of a German guy, and I never really went with it as much as I would have wanted to. I played with it here and there. With I had a kid show in Philly, and then I had I had the show down in Branson, and also in Pigeon Forge, and I would do the character here and there. But some of them I stay away from, because it's just not worth it to get into trouble with, But
now, are there any characters that people love that you really can't stand, and you just do it because the people love it?
No, I wouldn't do any character that I didn't want to do.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I have when I've done improv and stuff. When do you want to see yell out, be a chauvinist pig, and I'm not comfortable, being a chauvinist pig.
Yeah, right.
I don't really know how to do that. I mean, it's not something in my wheelhouse. So, I'd be on stage trying to do it, which was funny in itself, because I'm a hemming and hawing and trying to figure out, how do I do this?
Right.
I've never created a character that I didn't like doing. Okay.
And out of those three most famous characters, the Jiffy Jeff, Epi Epperman, and the football routine, which one is your favorite?
It's probably it's really hard because they're different people. It's like asking, which kid do you like best? Your first kid, your second kid, your third kid? You love them all, I'm really I really have a lot of fun with Jiffy Jeff, and I have a ton of fun with Epi too. The football guy, it's kind of hard to do because I'm always looking over my shoulder in my head, who's going to get offended by this?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
When I first started doing it back, when I did the HBO special with Rodney, I had more gigs, more work doing charities for NFL football players like Lawrence Taylor
Mhm.
and Refrigerator Perry. They would have me come to the golf tournaments, play in the golf tournament, and then after the golf tournament, go on stage and do my football characters, Boomer Esiason.
Yeah. Okay.
And some of these guys are black football players, and they're cracking up with me,
Yeah.
And then all of a
Because it's
sudden,
not really that offensive.
yeah,
It really isn't, and it's
yeah,
just
because yeah, exactly.
it's just offensive to a small percentage of people that cry the loudest.
Yeah.
Right.
I have to tell you, this is a true story.
Go ahead.
I'm on stage and I'm doing one of these fundraisers, and Lawrence Taylor is sitting with, I can't remember who the heck he was sitting with, but he's sitting in the front, and I'm on stage. I'm going, number 72. Now, of course, I do the other football players too. I do Billy Bob Brubeck. I do
right.
Ruth Koskiowski. So I pretty much hit almost every stereotype in the college all-stars. And then I go into the, Tyron Old Jackson, football, I play football, number 72. Oh shoot, no 27.
That's
I'm doing this, and I'm on stage, and it's in a country club, and I'm on stage. I'm doing my act, and I hear from the back of the room, I hear, "I don't play that," and I'm doing my thing. And so I walk down, I got my head pulled off, and my head was pulled off of my neck, and I'm doing my act, and I keep hearing this guy going, "I don't play that. I don't play that,"
Okay.
And I stop and I look, and it's a young black fella, and he's screaming at me, "I don't play that." And and I'm like, should I not do it? And I'm thinking, I just kind of was stunned. What do I do?
Yeah.
Lawrence Taylor stood up and said, "Yo, my man." He turns around to the guy, goes, "Yo, my man, you play football?" And he goes, "No." He was a server there, and he goes, "Well, then sit down and shut up and enjoy the show."
Yeah, you're not gonna argue with Lawrence Taylor. You're not gonna argue with Lawrence Taylor.
I'm paying this man to do this,
Yeah, you're not. You're not gonna. Lawrence Taylor would literally.
Yeah.
Rip you. Do you remember when he broke that guy's leg on the football field and he panicked because his leg was sticking out of his bone was sticking out of his leg, and he's calling the refs over like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That was,
he didn't know his own strength.
He was a monster on the football field. He changed the game. It was unbelievable. 56, right? Yeah, that was him. 56.
I think that's the reason why they made it so once a quarterback hits the ground, they stop it, because
really
it's so brittle.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But
some of them aren't that brittle, but they don't get that.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. What are you gonna do? Sir, I just want to tell you that it was an absolute honor having you on. And there's one thing that I say to people that I really admire about having your own podcast, and it enables you to reach out and interview people that you admire. Not people you have to. Like, it's not like I'm working for CBS and I got to interview some politician I don't give a shit about.
Yeah.
I reach out to the people that I always admired and I always wanted to speak to. And it is a true honor to have you on as one of my guests, even though I'm a small podcast and it's growing.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad I was able to do it, because, I'm afraid to do these things because of my brain and, my health and my situation. But I appreciate you having me on. I really do.
Of course. Are you kidding? The pleasure's all mine. It's an honor. You're a part of my childhood. And believe me, I'm going to send this to my brothers and anybody I spoke to remembered right away. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you, sir. Thank you very much for being on. And I'm glad you're doing better. And when you get it back out on the road, I got to come and see one of your shows.
Yeah, that'd be great. When I come out to Jersey, I probably will.
All right. Sounds good, Bob. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, John.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.